ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الهداة المهديين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقتلتهم وغاسب حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ملعونين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the shuhada, ulama and siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. The one that has once again given us opportunity to sit in the remembrance of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And I take this opportunity to offer my condolences to the host of this majlis, Imam al-Zaman Arwahun al-Fida, and to all the mu'mineen and mu'minat around the world. These majalis are not something small and insignificant. This month of Muharram, these Ayyam-e Azah, are the months of worship, are the months of servitude, and the months of love. The Urafah, when they speak about the journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they say that it has stages. The first stage of that journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one of ma'rifah, of knowing, coming to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second stage is the one of hubb, that once you know, you fall in love. And then once you transverse the realm of love, you enter into the realm of shawq, of fondness. Then now you become fond of God, of being in His presence. And after that shawq has finished, one enters the realm of uns, intimacy, close friendship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the final realm, after intimacy, after khawf, after intimacy and friendship, the last realm is the one of khawf, of fear. Not fear that Allah will punish you, but fear that you lose that maqam that you have gained with Him. These realms of love towards Allah apply to the awliya of Allah as well, the hujjah of Allah. For the hujjah of Allah, the A'imma alayhimus salam, are the manifestations of all of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so in the same way that you go through these stages towards Allah, you must pass through these stages towards the hujjah of Allah. Because as you pass through these stages towards the hujjah of Allah, the path of the hujjah is the only path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no way to reach Allah except through Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. They are the only path, the only tariqah, the only sirat to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why we refer to them in Ziyarat Jami'a Kabira as, O Ahlul Bayt, you are the sirat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are the only path towards Allah. And so when we take that and we apply it to this journey of love towards Abu Abdullah, the first stage is ma'rifah. You come to know who is Hussein. We've asked the whole world this question: who is Hussein? But have I truly understood myself who Hussein actually is? Have I gained ma'rifah of Sayyid al-Shuhada? After I gain ma'rifah and I understand who he is, only then can I love him. Because man cannot love that which he does not understand. And what is important about love is this: that love cannot exist without bughz. I cannot love without hate. Because the beloved that I love, I must hate all those that stood against that beloved. There must be love, but alongside that love, alongside that hubb is bughz. I can't claim to love, for example, Sayyidah Zahra, and then also love those that burnt down her house. So I come to love Sayyid al-Shuhada. Then after that realm, I gain that shawq, that fondness of being in his company, being around those that love him, hearing his name, hearing his masa'ib, hearing his fada'il. Because I understand who this being is. And then I develop that uns, that friendship, that intimacy with him. At this point, I can say, for whatever I need, I go to the door of Abi Abdullah with full yaqeen that there is nothing that can shake my faith in the hujjah of Allah in Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. I go to his door and I call to Allah through his door. I go to his door, and my desire is that I only enter into Jannah through his door. Why? Because Inna al-Hussein babun min abwab al-Jannah. That Hussein is a door from amongst the doors of Jannah. That Bab al-Hussein is a door that all the lovers of Abi Abdullah will enter through into Jannah. I have that fondness towards him, that uns, that friendship, that desire with him. And then comes that khawf, the fear that I may, through my actions, lose this ma'rifah of the Imam. And so I do everything in my power to not lose this passion, to not lose this connection, to preserve this love for my next generation. Because I know the narration says, إن لقتل الحسين حرارة في قلوب المؤمنين لا تبرد أبدا. That through the killing of Abu Abdullah, a fire is ignited in the hearts of the believers, a fire that shall never subside. But if I find myself becoming cool towards the event of Ashura, forgetting the musibah of Abu Abdullah, then I haven't truly gained the ma'rifah. I haven't gone through those stages of love to be able to reach that point of fear. Do I have that fear in my heart that maybe Imam al-Hussein won't call me for his ziyarah? Do I think those days when I make the intention to go for ziyarah and I don't get the chance, do I think, oh, okay, whatever, I'll do it next year? Or do I think, have I done something that you are pushing me away from your door? Do I have that fear of losing this love of Abi Abdullah? In these nights, there is a very special rizq that is available to you, especially in the first 10 nights of Muharram. The Urafah speak about this. They say that there is a very specific rizq that is given out in the 10 nights. These 10 nights are what can take you millennia in terms of your spiritual progression. If you concentrate, if you focus on these nights, various rizq are given to us. The rizq of the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. And those that haven't been, may Allah give them the opportunity, and those that have been, may Allah give us the opportunity again and again. Because as Imam al-Radha salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi says, Allahumma salli ala, to his companion Rayyan ibn Shabib, he says, Ibn Shabib, in sarraka an talqa Allah azza wa jal wa la dhanba alayk fazur al-Husayn. He says, O son of Shabib, if you want to meet with Allah on Yawm al-Qiyamah in the state that you have no sins on your Namay A'mal, you have no sins written for you, Fazur al-Hussein, go and do the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. The ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein wipes away all of your sins. But does that ziyarah mean that I need to physically go there? That's one part. But this is that Kareem household, that they are so generous in their ata, in the things that they give, that even for the smallest thing, they will give you the greatest of rewards. Imam al-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi says, says, whenever you hear the name of Imam al-Hussein, if you say sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write for you the reward of the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Whenever you hear his name, say sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Allah will write for you the reward of being the za'ir of Imam al-Hussein. And the one that is the za'ir of Abi Abdullah is one that has no sin on his scroll of deeds. Hussein alayhi salam is Kareem. So the first rizq that you have here in these 10 nights, especially in these 10 nights, is the one of ziyarah. The second is that the rizq of these majalis, these gatherings. And lucky are you who from the first night have come to listen to the fada'il and the masa'ib of Imam al-Hussein. This isn't your choice. You think you brought yourself here. No, he chose you to be here. He brought you here. The host of this majlis invited you here. The host is the Imam of our time. The majlis, you have been brought, you have been invited here. It says in the narrations in regards to the majlis of Abi Abdullah that there are armies of angels that descend and armies of angels that ascend. They're constantly coming down towards the majlis of Imam al-Hussein. Army after army descends for the majlis, they return, another already. Says when the majlis has finished and the last set of angels return back towards the heavens, those that were waiting, they turn to them and they say, that what is this smell that we smell from you, this sweet scent that is coming from you, a scent that we have never smelt ever before. They say we're returning from the majlis of Imam al-Hussein. They say, is the majlis complete? Says, yes, the majlis is finished. So not wanting to miss the barakah of the majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada, these angels that were waiting, they come down to the empty Husayniyah where the majlis was held, and they rub themselves against the walls and the manabir of that Husayniyah for barakah. This majlis is not something small and something insignificant. Every moment that you are here is a barakah is being given to you. When Imam Sadiq would hold the majlis in his home, on one occasion he called a reciter by the name of Abu Harun, and he said, recite the majlis. He gathered his women as well, and Abu Harun recited. In the end, Imam Sadiq says to him, Abu Harun, you know the number of the angels in the room were greater than the number of the people. The angels desire to come to the majlis of Imam al-Hussein. The angels love to be in the gathering of Imam al-Hussein. And the awliya of Allah understood this. The Urafa understood this. They never downplayed the majlis of Abi Abdullah. They never downplayed the ayyam of Muharram. Sayyid Ali Qadi Tabatabai, the teacher of many of the modern day Urafa, many of whose names you have heard, Sayyid Ali Qadi would hold a majlis in his home every Thursday night for Imam al-Hussein and throughout the ayyam of Muharram, and he would sit outside amongst the shoes. Whenever his guests would come into the house, he would sit there and he would straighten their shoes. Those shoes that were dusty, he would wipe them clean, and his students would say to him, Sayyid Ali, why don't you go inside? You're an old man, this is your majlis. He says, no, I have made two promises, two ahad with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that as long as I am alive, that I will always straighten the shoes of the azadar of Imam al-Hussein and clean their shoes. And the second is that I will serve them tea for as long as I am alive. This is majlis. We consider them in our modern day existence as something small and insignificant because our eyes have become blind to the reality that is in front of us. We do not understand, and thus we cannot impart upon our next generation. And so generation after generation, that love becomes weaker. That shauq becomes less. Because I, through the veils of my arrogance, look down on the majlis of Abi Abdullah. Through the veil of arrogance that blinds me to the realities that are within this majlis. Alongside the majlis in the Husayniyah, hold majalis in your homes. Bring the angels to your homes. You don't need to have a speaker. You just sit with your family members every day and sit and recite a marthiyah. Recite a hadith of Imam al-Hussein. Recite the musibah of Imam al-Hussein. And the angels will come and they will join you in your home. The Imam of the time will come and join you in your home. Do not consider the majlis as being something insignificant. Rizq that is given in these first 10 nights. One of them is the rizq of majlis. That those angels that come down and they sit, they do istighfar for those in Hadith al-Kisa. They do istighfar for those that sit in the remembrance of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. The next rizq that is available to you in these nights is the rizq of tears. These tears, whoever's phone that is, if they could kindly put it on silent, it would be much appreciated. Because you're a lot more popular than I am. So these tears that you have been given, that you have been blessed with, they're not something small. You know, nowadays, people look at crying for Imam al-Hussein, forget buka. Now even crying, we're like, oh, really? You want me to cry? If only you knew what one tear for Imam al-Hussein was worth. If you want to know its worth, then ask Zahra alayha salam herself. That Zahra that will stop herself from entering into heaven. And they'll say to her, why is it that you're not entering? And she'll say, Ya Allah, I don't want to enter until I have done shafa'ah for all those that wept over my son Hussein. Ask Zahra alayha salam what your tears are worth. The rizq that you have been given of these tears for Imam al-Hussein, they only come from a pure heart. A heart that has been hardened by the attachment to this dunya and the attachment to all things other than God will never be able to shed tears. There are some people that say, no matter how much I try, I can't cry. Some do it out of embarrassment, they don't want to cry. But others, because of the spiritual diseases they have, Allah deprives them of the rizq of tears for Imam al-Hussein. One tear that falls from the eye for Imam al-Hussein, the narration says, يُحِطُّ الذُّنُوبَ الْعِذَامِ, it consumes every single one of your sins in the same way that fire consumes dry wood. One tear. One tear for Imam al-Hussein, equivalent to that of a mosquito's wing, will form for you a barrier from between you and the fire of hell. These tears are a rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you can't cry, if you struggle, that's okay as well. But do one thing. The hadith says, Man baka ala al-Hussein. The one that does buka over Abu Abdullah, cries loudly, with a loud voice. Wajibat lahu al-Jannah. Jannah becomes wajib. Another narration says, the one who does buka, and the one that makes them cry, and the one that does tabaki. What is tabaki? Look at how kareem Imam al-Hussein is, how generous the household of Rasulullah is. That if you can't cry, because of whatever sin it is that's blocking you from gaining this rizq, they say do tabaki. At least put your head down and pretend or make the face of crying. Hussein alayhi salam will forgive all of your sins, will take you towards Jannah. Even through tabaki. You can't cry. Then when the masa'ib is being recited, lower your head out of respect and see what Hussein alayhi salam bestows you. If you respect the sha'a'ir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you respect the hujjah and the sanctity of the hujjah of Allah, you see where the hujjah will take you in these 10 nights. I remember last year when I was saying this in Birmingham, and from the first night I was making this point, that if you can't cry, it's okay. But when the masa'ib starts and the lights go out, just lower your head. And even when we reached the 8th or the 9th night, 5, 6-year-old children were sitting in front of me, and they were not just crying. The 9th of Muharram, I myself was shocked. On Shab-e Ashur, these children were slapping their faces out of the love of Imam al-Hussein, out of the musibah. This is not any kamal of mine, no. When you humble yourself in front of Imam al-Hussein, in front of the azah, in front of the majlis, in front of the hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then He begins to bestow upon you from everywhere, from places that you could not even expect. So the other rizq that you gain is the one of the tears for Imam al-Hussein. But all of these things, these rizq that we have spoken about, are dependent upon one thing: your capacity, your own capacity to bear the rizq. You know, in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He does not try a soul more than what it is capable of bearing. And we look at trials in the negative. We think, oh, Allah won't send a bala on us. But for the awliya of Allah, bala and trials, and we'll talk about this in the later nights, for the awliya of Allah, the bala and the trials are a blessing from God as well. Because it's a refinement of the soul of that individual. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only bestows upon a person based upon their capacity, both in terms of trials and in terms of barakah. So if you don't have the ability to receive more barakah and rizq in your life because you haven't created the capacity, you won't receive it. So when I talk about crying for Imam al-Hussein, understanding the importance of the majlis of Imam al-Hussein, understanding the importance of the azadari for Imam al-Hussein, you will only be able to understand that when you have the capacity to understand. You see, you tell many people about these ayam-e-azah. You tell them about azadari, the importance of crying, the importance of matam, the importance of nawha, masa'ib in these days. But still people will walk out because they don't have the capacity, the tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to take part in the azadari of Imam al-Hussein. So how is it that we increase this capacity? How is it that I can unleash this saga of love upon me? Because I know there's no one in this hall that sits here and is against Sayyidul Shuhada or is against the azah of Imam al-Hussein. They may not understand it. Because that bab, that door hasn't opened for them. But these nights is about opening that door for yourself. That door of love. That door of connection with the Imam. Two things. The first is simple. Ask Imam al-Zaman. Ask the Imam of your time, Imam, make me one that loves Azadari. Make me understand. Imam, give me the ability to cry. You know, we have narrations in Wasa'il. There is a narration that every person that cries in the majlis of Imam al-Hussein, Abi Abdullah himself comes in front of that person, looks him in the eye, gives him permission to cry, then his eye sheds a tear. One of the ulama was saying, imagine if Hussein alayhi salam himself is in front of you and he's giving you permission to cry. So why not then ask for your hajat at that point? When the hujjah of Allah is in front of you. How is this possible? What? All of these, if you understand what the role of the hujjah is, the maqam of the wali of Allah, then all of these things, how is it possible, how is that possible, are insignificant. Because of the position ontologically that the Imam holds. Increasing your capacity, one is you ask for it to be increased. The second advice I will give you is that in these Ayyam-e-Azah, at least the first 10, if not until the Arba'een of Sayyid al-Shuhada, every day recite Ziyarat Ashura. Just find some time in the day. You don't need to do the 100 tasbih and the 100 la'an, and the 100 salam and the 100 la'an. Just recite it once. But every day, recite Ziyarat Ashura. And look at that capacity that Imam alayhi salam opens for you. Look at how this saga of love will unleash upon your heart. It will grab hold of you. This jazb that we speak about, that the Urafah, they speak about this jazb, being captured in this love. If you recite this Ziyarat Ashura every day, especially in these first 10 nights, you will be attracted towards Imam al-Hussein. A door will open for you. And you will reach Abi Abdullah. This capacity that you have, it increases more and more as you move towards perfection, as you move towards Kamal. As you purify yourself and move up the ranks and the realms of perfection, more and more of this capacity is increased for you. More and more this saga of love is unleashed upon you. But the one that experiences these ayyam the most, or this love of Imam al-Hussein the most, is the Insaan-ul-Kaamil. And that is the hujjah of Allah. And that's why the Imam says that, Imam al-Radha says that whenever my father Imam al-Kadhim would see the moon of Muharram, you would never see him smiling. And every day his huzn, his sorrow would increase until the day of Ashura, where he was overtaken by uncontrollable grief. For us, we only hear it. For the hujjah of Allah, it plays out in front of his eyes. And that's why the Imam says, فَلَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّ لَكَ بَدَلَ الدُّمُوعِ الدَّمْعَ. in Ziyarat Nahiya, our Imam says that, oh my grandfather Hussein, I cry, I do nudba, I wail for you every morning and every night. And when my tears run out, I cry tears of blood for you. The Insaan-ul-Kaamil, the perfect human. This is the title for our series. And we'll analyze this concept of Insaan-ul-Kaamil. Because in reality, these Insaan-ul-Kaamil were 14. But in essence, they were just one. In essence, they were just one. Just manifested in different times and different places. Their nur is one. Their actions are one. And by attaching yourself to the Insaan-ul-Kaamil, to the perfect human, you too begin to raise yourselves in those realms of perfection. My brothers and sisters, you are about to enter into the sacred valley. These Ayyam-e-Azaa are a sacred valley. It's a sacred time. It's a sanctified time. And in the same way that Allah said to Musa, that, O Musa, فَخْلَعْ نَعْلَيْكَ فَإِنَّكَ بِالْوَادِ الْمُقَدَّسِ الطَّوَى. That Musa, remove your shoes, for you are entering into a sacred valley. These Ayyam-e-Azaa, this Muharram and this Safar until the Arba'een, this is a sacred valley. This is your Wadi Muqaddas. But removing the shoes here, what does it mean? There Musa was being told, Musa, remove your shoes, for this is holy land. But how is this entering into the valley of Muharram and Safar? How do we remove our shoes? And this is a requirement as well for you to increase your capacity, for you to feel this love, for your hearts to be broken. This فَخْلَعْ نَعْلَيْكَ is not your physical shoes. Yes, you do that out of the respect of the majlis of Imam al-Hussein, and even for that action you will receive your ajr. That you respect the majlis of Imam al-Hussein enough that you even remove your shoes to enter into it. For you believe that place where his name is mentioned is sacred. But in addition to this, those shoes that you need to remove are the metaphorical shoes of anger and pride and jealousy and arrogance. All of those spiritual diseases that stop you from ascending. These Ayyam-e-Azaa are a sacred valley. A valley that will take you directly to Allah if only you understand, if only you humble yourself in front of the Hujjah of Allah. The majlis of Imam al-Hussein is open to everyone and anyone. There are people that will only attend in Muharram. And this is the beauty of Abi Abdullah. Some look at this negatively. They say, oh, this is only a 10-day Shia anyway, we only see him once a year. But look at it the other way. That this is the power, the pulling power of Hussein alayhi salam. That the one that doesn't come for Shahr Ramadan, doesn't come Dhul Hijjah, doesn't come in any other night, Abi Abdullah has that capacity to even bring that person to this place. There are those whose faiths may be weak, There are those whose faiths are strong. But the majlis of Husayn ibn Ali is that majlis, that gathering that welcomes everyone into it. Why? Because Hussein alayhi salam is that Kareem Imam himself. That on one side is Zuhair, a person that was indifferent to him. And at the other side is Hur, a person that was his enemy. But in a matter of a few hours, he took them from being la'natullah alayh towards being those that we say salamullah alayh. Or that the sixth Imam says that whenever you want to say salam upon the shuhada of Karbala, you must say Bi'abi antum wa ummi, may my father and my mother be sacrificed over you. This is how generous Hussein alayhi salam is. That if you just come to him with a pure heart, just find a place in your heart where you can let Abu Abdullah settle. Yes, our hearts are mixed with different attachments in this world. Yes, our hearts are attached to various things within the dunya. Yes, there is much corruption there as well. But that small portion of your heart that dragged you here, that made you worthy of coming in this majlis, that the Imam allowed you and invited you to come into this majlis, open that portion and let Hussein sit there. Don't ever remove him from that part. Then leave the rest to Abi Abdullah. Leave the rest to Imam al-Hussein and see exactly where he takes you. Labbayk ya Hussein. Labbayk ya Hussein. Labbayk ya Hussein. Ya Ali. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The power of this majlis is that in just a few hours, your whole life can change. That is the beauty of Imam al-Hussein. That is the beauty of these Ayyam-i-Aza. But the requirement is that you want to change. That call of Sayyid al-Shuhada on the day of Ashura, when he called out, Hal min nasirin yansuruna, is there anyone that will come and help me? Do you think that Hussein alayhi salam really required help? In the same way, when Allah says in the Holy Quran, who is there that will give a loan to Allah? Does Allah require your money? No, he says, the only reason I'm asking you to give in my way is so that I can increase in what you already have. Imam al-Hussein was saying, Hal min on the day of Ashura. Not because he required help, but because he required people that he wanted to take towards Allah. Just one person. And that's why he waited until after Dhuhr. Although it's mustahab in our fiqh that a battle must start after Dhuhr. It gives the enemy an opportunity to reconsider going to war. But because the battle was forced, so then Sayyid al-Shuhada kept himself back. Maybe one of them will change. Maybe one of them will come back. And there were some that came even at the last moments, that joined Imam al-Hussein. His cry of Hal min nasir yansurana was not just for the people of that time, but it was for all of eternity. That come join me and see where it is that I will take you. And that's why when you recite the ziyarah in Karbala, it is recommended the start before the ziyarah, You say, Labbaik ya da'i Allah. I'm answering your call, oh the one that called towards Allah. You said Hal min Nasirin over 1,000 years ago. But today I stand here and I'm saying Labbaik ya da'i Allah. I'm answering your call, oh the one that calls towards Allah. Even though I was not there with you on the day of Ashura, I now reply to you with my hands and my eyes and my ears and my tongue and my very wujud at your door, Imam. I come and I give my whole life to Imam al-Hussein. And I leave it all at his door. Whatever problem you have, whatever issue you have, the moment it comes into the majlis and you put it at the door of Imam al-Hussein, it's all removed. He says to Rayyan ibn Shabib, the 8th Imam says, Yabn Shabib, in kunta bakiyan lish-shay' fabki lil-Husayn. Says, O son of Shabib, if you want to cry over anything in your life, if you've gone through heartache, if your heart has been broken, if someone has broken your trust, someone has hurt your feelings, فَابْكِلِ الْحُسَيْنِ, if you've lost a loved one, if you've lost a friend or a family member, and your heart is breaking and you want to cry, he says, فَابْكِلِ الْحُسَيْنِ, cry over Abi Abdullah. Why? فَإِنَّهُ ضُبِهَا كَمَا يُذْبَهُ الْكَبْشِ, for that Hussein was slaughtered in the way that sheep are slaughtered. He says, cry for Hussein. Hussein alayhi salam is the Imam of the broken-hearted. Bring our broken hearts to his door and see how it is that he will take us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you can bring your hearts to Imam al-Hussein and say, Ya Aba Abdullah, my heart is distracted by all these things in the dunya. But Ya Hussein, you are the one that changed the destiny of Hur in a matter of hours. Ya Aba Abdullah, for years, at the very least, I've come to your majlis. At the very least, I've said, Ya Hussein, Ya Imam, I come to your door in these ayyam-e-azab. So now, Imam, you take my hand, you guide me, you heal me. And see where it is that he will take you. Karbala was all about sacrifice. One sacrifice after another. But the first of the sacrifices of Imam al-Hussein was having to give up his beloved Medina. When Imam al-Hussein realized that he had to leave Medina, the first place he went was to the grave of the Holy Prophet. And he sat by the grave of his grandfather and he wept. He laid his head on the grave of the Holy Prophet and he fell asleep. He saw the Holy Prophet in his dream. He says to him, Ya Rasulullah, dhammani fi hadha al-qabr. Ya Rasulullah, take me inside this grave with you. I don't want to return back to the dunya. These Muslims, what are they forcing me to do? Rasulullah replies to him, says, Hussein, there is a maqam for you in Jannah, but you cannot attain it except through shahadat. Hussein, you must go on this journey. And so Aba Abdullah awakens from his dream. And then he waits. And in the middle of the night, he goes to that grave that nobody knew where it was. That grave that is hidden from us today as well. No matter how old a person becomes, his mother is the place where he goes to confide. For he knows that the heart of the mother is soft. And even those whose mothers have left this world, they will go to the graves of their mothers and they will speak to their mothers. And so Hussein alayhi salam went to that lonely grave of Zahra in the middle of the night. The riwayat don't say what conversation took place there. But I imagine that Sayyid al-Shuhada, having to leave Medina, now going to the grave of his mother, would have remembered that first of the sacrifices of Ahl al-Bayt. The first sacrifice from this family was the one of Zahra alayha salam. She is Masa'ib. For all of the pains and all of the Masa'ib of Ahl al-Bayt began from the door of Zahra alayha salam. And I have made it incumbent on me for the last, I don't know how many years, that the first majlis of the Ayyam Aza, I always dedicate to Zahra alayha salam and her Masa'ib. Because Bibi, we've come to mourn your Hussein alayhi salam. And you yourself have promised that that nation that mourns over your Hussein, you will do shifa'ah for them and enter them into Jannah. Ya Zahra, we have come today to mourn your Hussein. Abi Abdullah, this pain of the day that the door was set on fire, this musibah of his mother Zahra, was something that never left Imam al-Hussein. For years afterwards, whenever he would see Mughira in the streets, he would see him and he would say, he is the one that slapped my mother and caused her death. After the death of Rasulullah, the Muslims came to the door of Zahra, not with condolences, but instead in their hands they had firewood and they had torches of fire. And they called out, "Oh Ali, come outside the house. If you don't come, we will burn down this house." Zahra alayha salam ran towards the door. She says, "Will you set fire to this door? The door that is the door where the wahi would come, the door that the Prophet would send salam upon." They say to her, "Zahra, this is not a matter for women. You go back, send Ali out." She says that, "Do you think that you will disgrace and destroy the sanctity of this home?" He doesn't listen. When she, salamullah alayha, places her hands on the door as they try to push it, he says that I saw the hand of Zahra through the gaps of the door. So I took my whip and I whipped the hand of Zahra. At that moment she pulled back her hand, she called out, "Ya Abata, oh father, Ya Rasulullah, look what this ummah do to me after you." They set fire to the door, Zahra pleading with them, but they wouldn't listen. They say he moved the people out of the way. He kicked open the door with such force that Zahra was crushed between the wall and the door. The nail of the door broke, breaking the rib of Zahra. She falls to the ground unconscious. They enter into the house. They tie ropes around the neck of Ali. They begin to drag Ali out from the house, but again Zahra stands in the way. Khallu ibn Ammi, let Ali go. He turns towards his slave. He says, come father, what are you waiting for? Move her out the way. He approaches Zahra. He slaps her across her blessed face. She falls to the ground. He takes the cover of his sword and he begins to beat her as she lies upon the ground. They take Ali towards the masjid. Zahra unconscious on the ground. She opens her eyes. Fizla standing by her. The first thing she asks, says Fizla, where did they take Ali? Says, Bibi, they dragged Ali to the masjid. Zahra forgets her wounds. She forgets the child lost within her womb. One hand on her rib, one hand on the walls of Medina. Zahra makes her way to the mosque of the Prophet. There she sees they have a sword against the neck of Amirul Mu'mineen. Zahra raises her hand. She says, let Ali go. No one listens. Again she says, let Ali go. No one listens. The third time Zahra says, I swear if you do not let Ali go, I will raise my hands and pray to Allah to curse you. Salman narrates, says the moment that Zahra said this, the foundations of Masjidun Nabi began to shake. The walls began to lift. Amirul Mu'mineen looks towards Salman, says, Salman, tell Zahra to go back. Salman runs to her, says, Bibi, Amirul Mu'mineen is saying, return home. She says, Salman, how can I return home? They have Ali like this. He says to her, Bibi, Ali himself is saying, return home. She goes back to the house. They release Amirul Mu'mineen. But now that Zahra that was always smiling, from this point on now, this Zahra is never seen smiling. That Zahra that would always run to the door when Ali would enter and say to him, Nafsi lakal fida, Ruhi lakal wiqa. Ya Ali, may my soul be sacrificed for you. And she would come and she would greet him at the door. Now this Zahra doesn't have strength to stand from her bed. The wounds of Zahra alayha salam. Imam Sadiq says Nahilatul Jism, Zahra's body became so frail that she was unable to stand. And Ali day by day would see his wife, his beloved, slowly deteriorating. The children would have hope that maybe our mother will stand again. Until one day came that they say that Zahra alayha salam, she sat up, she began to clean. She called Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein. She brushed their hair. She sent them out to the children, to the houses of Bani Hashim. Amirul Mu'mineen, seeing Zahra in this state, becomes happy. He says, Zahra, alhamdulillah, you're recovering. Zahra, inshallah, you'll make a full recovery. As he turns to walk out the door, she calls out to him, Ya Ali, this is my last day. At that moment, Amirul Mu'mineen turned around. He comes running back towards her, says, Zahra, you're talking about leaving me? She says, Ali, I saw my father in my dream last night, and he told me that this is the day, Zahra, that you will return back to me. Amirul Mu'mineen begins to weep. Zahra says to him, Ya Ali, go towards the masjid. Amirul Mu'mineen goes to the masjid. She turns to Asma, she says, Asma, I'm going to go and I'm laying in my room. Asma, as long as you hear me doing tasbih, know that I am alive. Asma says that I listened outside the room, pacing impatiently. I could hear her tasbih, but at one point the voice of Zahra fell silent. I called out, Ya Mawlati, Ya Zahra, Ya Sayyidati, Ya Fatima. There was no reply. She says, I went into the room and realized that Zahra
Zahra had left this world, says, I was thinking, how will I tell Hasanain alayhim as-salam? How will I break the news to Amir al-Mu'mineen? At that moment, she says, Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein entered. They said to her, Asma, where is our mother? She says, your mother is resting. They say, Asma, this is not the time where our mother would rest. They run past her into the room. Imam al-Hasan enters first. He calls out to his mother. He lays his head on her chest, and then he calls out, says, oh Hussein, come quickly, we have been orphaned. Imam al-Hussein runs inside the room. He calls out, Ya Ummah, Ana Hussein, oh mother, I'm your Hussein. Kallimini qabla an yufariq ruhi min jasadi. Oh mother, answer me before my soul leaves my body. But there's no reply from Zahra. There's no reply from Zahra. They go to the masjid, they call Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen comes. You hear of the ghusl and the kafan of Zahra. I wanted to take you to one point in this, that Amir al-Mu'mineen, after giving ghusl and kafan, he calls the children. He says, oh children, come and bid farewell to your mother, for this is the final farewell. From now you will only see her on Yawm al-Qiyamah. They all come around her. Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein throw themselves on the body of Zahra alayha salam. They begin to weep loudly. At that point a voice is heard from heaven. Oh Ali, lift Hasanain from the body of Zahra, for the malaika in the heavens have begun to weep. Amir al-Mu'mineen lifts these orphans. He lifts Hassan, he lifts Hussein with love. Ya Ali, where were you on Asra Ashur? You lifted the orphans of Zahra with so much love. But come and see the orphans of Hussein. Sakina on the body of Abi Abdullah. The narration says, اجتمعت عليها عدة من الأعراب. A group of the Arabs surrounded her. فجروها عن جسد أبيها. They dragged her from the body of her father with slaps and whips in their hands. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. ماتم يا حسين، يا حسين.